Hi everyone, welcome to another one of our Easter week videos. I've got Emma with me today and we are going to be talking about grief and loss. So in the Easter story, Jesus dies and there's a bit in the Bible where it describes how his mum and his friends are right there present with him as he's dying. And as we all know, this last year has been really hard and a lot of us have lost people or lost things, experiences. Grief and loss has been a real thing for most people over this last year. So it's great to have Emma here. And what, Emma, are your experiences of grief and loss over this last year?
Over this past year, two very close friends of mine, Rach and Joe, have both had their dads die of cancer. And it's been great to walk with them and give them lots of opportunities to talk about their dads and for it not to be like an elephant in the room. And I think sometimes in this country we're not brilliant at talking about death, and we can think, oh, we're going to offend or say the wrong thing, and there's a tendency sometimes to avoid the subject. So I found with friends of mine with very recent bereavements that just giving them an opportunity to talk, say how they're feeling. I was the first person that saw Jo after her dad died. She came back from a holiday and I went round to the house with flowers, and she just sort of talked for about an hour about his last times, and she was saying only the other day that she really remembers that.
Yeah, it's something we find really hard to talk about, isn't it? And I understand what you say, that we're afraid to say the wrong thing, or it's a really tough one to get right, but I think you're totally right that we need to be better at talking about this. And how can we help each other do that? And for you, how do you do that?
Well, I really love poetry. I'm a poet and I love reading poetry, and there's a real power in it. I think sometimes poetry goes beyond words and says so much more than the words on the page. And only 2 days ago, my best friend from college, who I shared a room with for 2 years, texted me and said that her dad had died the day before. And of course I sent a message of condolence straight away. But what I then followed it with is a couple of months ago I videoed me reading a poem in the garden called My Bone Garden, in particular about my nan and auntie and how those that we love are always with us and you know, come out in different ways in our life and a part of who we are. And so I just actually sent her that video, My Bone Garden, which she found really helpful. Somebody else talking about their grief and being prepared to talk about it and their feelings. So I find poetry is a very powerful way. And friends, Margaret and Pete, we saw them actually going into Costco in the summer. And then a couple of days later, Pete was diagnosed with bowel cancer, and he died 17 days later. It was very, very quick. And Margaret rang me and said it was his Thanksgiving coming up, and would I write a poem about him to read at it? And I was really touched by that. And it wasn't so much that I'd been asked to do a poem, but it was what Pete would have wanted, that Pete would have wanted somebody to write and read a poem at his Thanksgiving. And it went beyond words, and I think it really touched the people who were there, and they felt it summed him up as a person. So for me, poetry is always the go-to.
That's really interesting, and I think it's good, isn't it? We've all got different characters and personalities, and all have something to offer in this situation. Yeah. Any final thoughts from you on this subject?
In 1 Corinthians 13 verse 13 it says, "But these three remain, faith, hope and love, and the greatest of these is love." And Philip Larkin, a poet, said, "What will survive of us is love." And that, I think, is very important to think about when we think about grief and loss, is of the power of love. And I think particularly in the run-up to Easter, the concept of love, because actually Easter is basically all about love.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Emma. Yeah, really appreciate your honesty and sharing your experiences. And if you're watching and this is resonating with you, you've experienced grief and loss, particularly over the last year, we would love to pray for you as a church. yeah, if you want to get in touch with us, if there's a way that you're looking for help and support, yeah, please do let us know. But yeah, thank you.